Get some more perspective on what we've heard from the two of them, from the top Democrat on the committee, Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman, always good to see you. No proof, Peter King says. I've seen no proof of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Carter Page says the allegations are laughable. What do you say?
Well, Carter Page is a person of interest to the committee, and I think probably likely to come before the committee, so I don't want to comment on anything he's had to say in particular. But I do think that we need to get to the bottom of these allegations of collusion or coordination. I have to disagree with my colleague in terms of whether there is any evidence of collusion. I believe that there is. But nonetheless, this is something that we need to investigate. I think there was a reason why the FBI began its investigation and why it continues that investigation. I don't think it's something the FBI does without any basis. But that's about as much as I can say without going into particulars. I will say this: I think it would be deeply irresponsible of us not to follow the facts wherever they lead, to do it objectively and not to predetermine a conclusion. But there is certainly, as we have seen from many of the public reports, ample reason to do this investigation.
Concerned politically that if there winds up being no real proof that is actionable on a prosecution basis about the campaign or the administration and Russian operatives, that this will be seen as a failure and a ruse?
Well, it shouldn't be seen as a failure if we do our job and we follow the facts wherever they lead and we reach a unified conclusion. We shouldn't go into this with the object that we score this political point or that political point, or we want to come up ultimately with a certain conclusion. We'll be doing our job if we thoroughly investigate this and if we can reach a sound determination about what happened, what the Russians did, the different levers the Russians pulled. We know the Russians use a variety of techniques to interfere in elections in Europe. We know they used some of those techniques here, and we want to find out about everything the Russians did. I think that is what we ought to do responsibly. I would say also, though, I think what would give the public the greatest confidence, in addition to what we're doing, is if we had a truly independent commission that was well-resourced and could be completely removed from any political consideration. I think that ought to be a supplement to what we do and not instead of what we're doing.
Well, you raise an interesting issue, which is about how will the people find satisfaction. You know, there's good argument to be made that you really shouldn't be dealing with the collusion issue. That's a potentially criminal matter. It should stick with the DOJ and the FBI, and they are theoretically looking into it. You should be dealing with Russian interference, what happened to the political system, how we can combat it, how we do better in the next election. What do you make of that suggestion?
Well, I think that the Congress has an oversight responsibility to find out just what the Russians did. They have a number of techniques they've used in Europe, for example. They have used blackmail. They have used compromising material. They have used financial entanglement. They've used hacking. They've used dumping. They've used paid media trolls. Some of those devices we know they used here. Others we need to investigate. But yes, we're not the prosecutors. Ultimately, the information we get, we may refer to the Justice Department. Of course, the FBI is doing its own investigation. But I don't think that means that we artificially wall off part of our oversight and say we're not going to look at these stratagems the Russians may have used. I think we need to look at it all.
One last sum up on this, and then I want to ask you about taxes. Can you say with confidence at this point that it is premature for people to say there's going to be no proof of collusion?
Yes, it's certainly premature. And, you know, one of the challenges we have, Chris, in the investigation is there are the members of the Gang of Eight in the committee that have received certain information, and then there's the rest of the committee members. And what I've been urging the FBI is to share the information that the Gang of Eight has received with the full committee so that we're all on the same page, we're all doing the same investigation. But that's an issue that has yet to be resolved.
The tax wish list, it's just one page, but it's already going to be a smack in the face to districts and constituencies like your own in California, because other than growth as a result of tax cuts, the way to pay for this wish list is to stop the deductibility of state and local taxes. That's going to go hard to the big states with the big tax burden like yours. What's your take on the possibility of that passing?
Oh, I think a lot of states, you know, like California, like New York, for example, that have invested a lot in public services stand to lose a great deal with this particular tax plan. And really, it's a blow from two directions. On the one hand, if the Republicans repeal the Affordable Care Act, and they essentially do away with a lot of the Medicaid support of people's access to health care who are poor or working class families. And at the same time, they do away with the state's ability to backfill and provide those supportive services. It's going to be crushing to the states. And the new iteration of the Republican health care bill makes that problem worse because it says, you know, these guaranteed provisions in terms of your health care plan will go away or they'll be at the whim of the states. And now we're saying, and the states aren't going to have the money to do it.
Right.
So essentially, you put the two together, it's taking people's health care away from them to give people who are doing quite well already a massive tax cut. And I think that's bad for all the states, not just the big states.
Do you believe that this waiver and promise of more choice to the states is a bait and switch, that they're going to give the states more control under the Republican health care plan, but they're not going to give them the money that they need?
Oh, that's absolutely the case. What they're going to give the states is the opportunity to deny people coverage if they have pre-existing conditions and deny them other essential forms of coverage. But this is the way they just try to put a Band-Aid over it and try to say, well, we're not really doing away with people's ability to get health care if they have pre-existing conditions. We're just going to price it above their ability to pay. And the way we're going to bring down premiums for people is we're going to take people who really need health care and say, you're out of luck. But for everybody who's healthy, your premiums will go down. That's really not a prescription for a healthy nation, but I think that's the bill of goods that they're trying to sell.
Congressman Schiff, thank you for being on New Day, and good luck in your quest for clarity.